dear listeners, and welcome to the latest episode of Extra Extra. It's all about whiskey. I'm your host, Jason JY, joined, as always, by Joshua M.H. Hatton. Hello, Joshua.
Is this both the latest and the lastest episode of Extra Extra, at least for this season?
The latest and the lastest?
Is lastest a word? I think it's a word.
Given that in America you can say funnest.
You can do anything in America.
That really puts chills down my spine.
Become president if you wanted to, Jason.
Funnest. Yeah. Isn't that a riot? Isn't that a tickle? You are correct in your own unique way, Joshua. This is the season finale. Season 3, I think I'm right in saying.
You are correct, yes.
I don't know why I left the door open. I knew it was the end of season 3. We are ending season 3 with a bit of fun. Mm-hmm. And we're actually, as we're prone to do in these parts, we're shifting it up here. We're mixing it up at the very last kick of the ball. That's a World Cup reference, Joshua.
I know it. Go Argentina. It
is. You said nobody ever. Go France. Come on, man.
Said no one ever. It's Argentina.
Argentina.
No, we don't root for France in this house. We vote Argentina.
Man, I guarantee you we've got more listeners in France than we have in Argentina. It's all a moot point. This is dropping the Wednesday after the World Cup final. This will be decided by the time this goes live.
Anyway.
We're not here to talk about the World Cup. We're here to talk about something that you and I have not had a natural conversation about this week. Mm-hmm. And this is something we do have regular, normal conversations about at this time of year. So I mentioned a moment ago that we're mixing it up. It is, in fact, your turn to bring an article to our attention, Joshua Hatton. Mm-hmm. But I jumped into the queue ahead of you to say, I've got an idea, and you let slip that you hadn't actually looked over what we're going to cover.
Exactly, which I usually do, and this year I just sort of lost track. Yeah,
you absolutely do. Yeah. So what I'm talking about is we are going to close out our year by having a look over the Whisky Advocate top 20 end of year whiskey list. Mm-hmm. Yep, something we've been paying attention to for over a decade. Mm-hmm. Incomplete Joshua Hatton list. I don't know if we started looking at it in 2008, 2009, 2010, but it's in there, right?
It's in there.
Definitely in there.
Right? Back in the days when it was Malt Advocate, says the
right. Hansel would start dropping the top 20 on the Twitters. He also had his own blog, and he would drop them in there, and conversation would ensue. So I'm excited to return to this. Let me get a couple of paragraphs of business out the way. Okay. So this is titled About the Whisky Advocate Top 20, and there's no author attached to the list because they pull from their year results.
Okay.
So here's a couple of paragraphs of business. Each year, Whisky Advocate buying guide reviewers collectively sample hundreds of whiskies. These include rare and extremely limited releases, as well as new and emerging labels that will find their way to shelves across the nation. To determine our top 20, we begin by looking only at whiskies that rated quote-unquote outstanding, which is 90 points or higher on Whisky Advocate's 100-point scale. However, the top 20 is not simply a collection of our highest rated whiskies, because many of those are so limited they would be impossible for most readers to locate or purchase. Therefore, in addition to quality based on score, our selection also prioritizes value based on price and availability. The second paragraph of business, Joshua, an important step in gauging the true merit of these whiskies is blind tasting review by a panel of international reviewers. The review panel tasted the eligible whiskies in a series of blind tasting flights to arrive at the final list. The panel did not know the identity of the whiskies being tasted, not their producer, country of origin, age, nor price. The average rating from the blind tasting panel supersedes the original buying guide rating. So there you go. This is the latest and greatest in scorekeeping from Whisky Advocate.
There you go. Okay.
Final sentence in our point of business here. The individual reviewer rating will remain noted in the buying guide for the record. The final decision for placement considers average score, price, and availability. So I will give you the score that these whiskies received in the buying guides, but it'll have its own position in the top 20 based on that blind review by international reviewers.
And now, as we're going through this, are you going to go from 20 to 1? How do you? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and we're not going to belabor every point, but I'm going to give you a little guess along the way. Today's episode will be a tight 35
ish.
It's all a tight 35. We learned that this year. It's all a tight 35.
All tight 35.
And so I will be perfectly honest with you, Joshua. There are bottles on this list I have never seen, I have never heard of, I have certainly never tasted. It's a bit of a wild ride, but starting with something very comfortable in the 20th position is a Scotch from my home country. And I haven't tasted it yet.
Okay. Am I meant to guess? Like, what's...
Absolutely.
I mean, because there's no clues there. There's not a single clue there.
No. I'm trying to think what kind of information I could give you. There are some big clues I could give you. But I'll give you the logistics first. I'll give you the hard and fast details.
Okay.
This received a 93 in the buying guide.
Solid score.
It is bottled at 46% alcohol.
Solid ABV.
It can be found on a store shelf for $65.
Solid store shelves and prices.
It's from a distillery that you and I both like very much. And it has a place... The family of releases have a place in your top 5 whiskies that should be in every collection. This is not that bottle, but it is a cousin of that bottle in your list.
In my list of top 5 whiskeys everybody should have. And you say it's a family of... When you say a family of whiskeys, do you mean like a stable of distilleries within...
No, this distillery itself has a range of releases in their standard lineup that you and I like a lot.
Yeah.
The one at the very beginning of that lineup, you say should have a place in everybody's collection.
So that sounds like it could be Craigellachie 13-year-old. I am right.
That is exactly correct.
Okay.
So this is a cousin of Craigellachie 13-year-old.
And
have you seen this bottle around? Earlier this year I sent a link to this bottle to Moscow Jim, who is a Craigellachie fanatic.
Yeah.
And he had not seen this bottle out in the wild. He didn't know it existed. And he has now made his purchase of this bottle.
I mean, if the 13-year-old was the one that opens the door, and that one was always $65-ish.
No, 55 even.
55-ish.
55.
This one's 65.
Mm-hmm.
But they do prime numbers, right? It's 13, it's 17, it's 19, and so on. So it's either an NAS, or is there another prime number below 13? I mean, there's got to be. Is 11 a prime number?
I guess it is, yeah.
Is it an 11-year-old Craigellachie?
It's not, but you're really barking up the right tree.
Okay.
I'm going to guess you haven't seen this out and about in the wild
I haven't.
either.
This one I don't know.
So coming in at number 20 on the Whisky Advocate Top 20 list is the Craigellachie 13-year-old Bass Armagnac Finish.
Oh, interesting.
And this episode drops during Hanukkah. And so let me wish you a happy Hanukkah, Joshua, and let you know this is your Hanukkah gift.
Jason. Aw, what a guy. Oh, that makes me so happy. Oh, I love it. That is excellent. Oh, you got me to blush and everything. Hopefully the listeners can hear my blush.
So there you go. Happy Hanukkah with the Whisky Advocate 20th placed whiskey.
Hey, you got me one from the top 20. You know it is one of my favorite distilleries of all time.
Well, and I reached out to Anthony Levinson immediately. Joshua raises the Craigellachie 13 behind him, always within arm's length. I reached out to Anthony Levinson immediately. Anthony is the spirits buyer at Roma in New York City. We have done a Cask collaboration with Anthony and the team at Roma. And he also does a little bit of repping of Craigellachie and Teeling on the side.
Oh, that's right. And Aberfeldy.
And Aberfeldy, right? Yeah. And so I reached out and said, hey, congratulations on that Craigellachie. How many do you have in store? Because I knew it was on his website. And I secured us bottles, and I reminded Moscow Jim to get his bottle. And so
you're a good man, Charlie
have been
Brown.
made.
Well done.
There you go. All right, so I wanted to belabor that one because I was really building up to the reveal of your Hanukkah present. So I will tell you very, very quickly, at number 19, we steer away from Scotch, but we're still in Anthony Levinson territory.
So you mentioned Teeling, right? So is it... it's an Irish whiskey. Okay.
It is, and it made me think of our friends up at Rassay. And I don't know if you've seen this one out in the wild, Joshua. Teeling Wonders of Wood Virgin Chinkapin Oak.
There's a joke in there somewhere. I just want to put it out there. Wonders of Wood. Sorry. Whew. Gotta calm down. That's interesting. You know, I've been seeing more and more distilleries play around with Chinkapin, like you said, right?
Absolutely. Yep, we're starting to hear it.
Rassay use as a standard. And then Glenallachie was using it, and now hearing that Teeling is using it, that's super cool.
Yep. So the Teeling Wonders of Wood Virgin Chinkapin Oak, it scored a 93 in the buying guide. It's bottled at 50%, and it's in the United States for $100 a bottle.
I have not had a Teeling whiskey that I haven't enjoyed. They've always been solids. And this is one of the things I like about the Whisky Advocate list, is that typically the whiskeys they choose just tend to be solid drinkers, right? Which is where we like to live.
Well, and that's exactly why I wanted to put out the 2-paragraph rules of the game today, right? Where it is partly price, it is partly availability, it is definitely quality, but it's quality with those two other aspects in mind.
Yep.
So,
yeah, cool.
The first three are region hopping around the world here. We go from single malt Scotch into Irish whiskey here into, let me just say, something from Kentucky. Have you heard of Hardin's Creek Colonel James B. Beam 2-year-old?
No, that's a new one on me. There's so many bourbon brands that we haven't heard of, tasted, had a chance to really pay attention to. Yeah, this is new. Okay. 2 years old. It highlights 2 years old.
Right. Scored a 93, bottled at 54%.
Good ABV.
Retails for $80 a bottle.
Do we know anything about it? Is it sourced liquid? Is it their own distillate?
Well, I'm going to tell you what Ted Simmons shared in the pages of Whisky Advocate.
Ted is a good guy, by the way. I like him.
Part of a new limited series from James B. Beam, this whiskey was taken off the still at a lower distillation proof, highlighting the flavours formed during fermentation and proving that age isn't everything. The nose has notes of green apple, honeydew, and lemon peel, as well as old-fashioned donuts and vanilla birthday cake.
Ooh.
The palate is green and malty, but in a captivating way, with matcha powder and chocolate milkshake. A peppery, coffee-laden finish rounds out an unconventional drinking experience.
That sounds fantastic. And also, James Beam, so Jim Beam. So this is a Beam product. I wasn't putting the dots together there initially, but those tasting notes are an intriguing combination of notes for an American whiskey here. So I like that.
I will say, though, and this isn't to speak to quality, but a lot of those words speak to youth, right? There's a lot of the spirit coming through. They are not overtaken by the wood. And I'm not saying older is better. I'm not saying it has to be 4 instead of 2. I'm just saying those tasting notes make me think I would be getting a more youthful expression.
Which could be kind of nice. You know, we've talked about this before. The tannins from oak can sometimes overpower, at least my palate. So it'd be nice to see something a bit more spirit forward. So cool.
So there you go. And now I know that as much as you don't know the list, you do know number 17 because it was part of a wider Impex notice.
Yeah. Right. And when I received the notice that this won number 17, it should have prompted me to take a look at the rest of the list. I just...
who's got time? It's a busy time of year, Joshua.
Apparently I don't. So number 17... is from Indri, and it is their Trini single malt. Non-age stated, but the whiskeys are between 5 and 7 years old, and it's ex-bourbon, ex-Bordeaux, ex-PX casks, 46% alcohol. And I've decided to pour a little bit. When this, just really quickly, to tell you the power of this list. You know, we had just brought in, and by we I mean Impex. So I'm wearing my Impex hat right now for this story.
Understood.
Brought in hundreds of cases of this, and it started going into market. You know, tough time to get new products into market.
Agreed.
You know, during October, November, December. But when this award came out, our stock was depleted immediately, like a few hundred cases immediately, and then
a few hundred cases.
Yes, and you know our distributors are scrambling because there are, you know, shops and bars and restaurants heard about it and they want it. It's amazing the frenzy that this creates because it's a pretty well respected list.
And not to downplay in the slightest. But that's position 17. That's not number 1. That's not top 3. It's not top 5. It's not top 10. That's 17.
Yeah.
And it had that effect. That is really wild.
Yeah.
That is really something else.
So I've poured a little bit of the Trini to help along with the conversation. Not that the conversation needs help, Jason. I'm just saying.
I was going to say the last thing you need is alcohol in you to get a wee bit more wordy. Let's leave it at that. We don't need to fight over verbose or erudite. We could just leave it at wordy. I'm actually calling up right now. You certainly conducted the interview that had us discussing Indri in One Nation Under Whiskey.
Yeah, that's right. That was a driving interview with our friend Madhu Khanna, who's... Oh, no, that wasn't a driving one. I take that back. That
was a hotel room.
A hotel room one. We just did a lot of driving. He's a lovely, lovely, lovely guy.
And for anybody listening to Extra Extra who'd like to revisit that, Season 6, Episode 14 was the Madhu Khanna, Head of International Business, Indri Single Malt. So, yeah, it's really nice to see somebody who was so recently on One Nation Under Whiskey get to celebrate position number 17 on the Whisky Advocate Top 20 list.
100%.
Awesome. All right. Oh, yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, you know, we've entry number 20.
Is it thanks to us?
Entry number 20 celebrates Stephanie McLeod, who we also had on the podcast last year. So
100%. Okay, so that takes us 2019, 18, 17. What's kind of striking for me is I was having another quick glance over the list to say, okay, well, I wonder where I'll be pouring my whiskey. It's not going to be in the next 4, so I don't own any of them either. So number 16 takes us back to Ireland. Rather large producer in Ireland here, rather well known. This is the 12-year-old offering at 40% ABV. Retails at 60 on the shelf. Score of 93 in the buying guide. You could literally walk into any store and get your hands on a bottle of this.
It sounds like a Jameson's product.
The other one.
What is the other one? Is it Redbreast? No. Powers?
No, that's produced by Middleton, right? Oh, you're around all the doors here. All the doors. Begins with a B.
With a what?
A B.
A B. Oh my God! Why am I having a brain fart? Did the B stand for brain fart? No.
Wrong country, my friend. Wrong country.
Oh my gosh! As soon as you mention it, I'm going to say, "Oh, of course it is."
First half of the word is Bush.
Oh, Bushmills, of course it is.
Yeah, that's the one.
All right. Oh yeah, Bushmills. Yeah, Irish single malt. There you go.
12, 40%. Boom, boom, boom. And then we're in Tennessee. which I'm not sure why, because the company itself is not in Tennessee. It must be a sourcing of the liquid.
It must be. Okay.
This became a big company real fast and then was purchased by venture capitalists. They did a lot of contract distilling. They did a lot of individual distilling. You could go in and distill to your own mash bill.
Oh, is it Copper and Castle and Key? Who are the other ones? Oh, man.
It's not. It shares an acronym with a large government organization in the United Kingdom.
NHS? Wowger? I don't
Love your use of NHS. That would chef's kiss on that one.
You got to put me out of my misery. Oh.
It's where one might get one's news. It begins with a B, and the first half of the word is not Bush.
I guess I shouldn't have started on this injury so quickly.
My gosh, I really hope it loosens some things in your brain.
It's so funny, right? I mean, as soon as we start doing blind anything, all brain matter just goes away.
I just love the idea of our listeners getting to shout out the answer. and this goes both ways for you and myself, where we're like, what? Now give me another hint. The listeners are like, it's Bardstown Bourbon Company. Jason was referring to the BBC.
Bardstown Bourbon. Of course. Absolutely, of course.
But this bottling is the Bardstown Bourbon Company collaborative series Plantation Rum Barrel Finished. And I immediately, when I saw this, thought of Plantation Rum with the Kilchoman finish that they had done. I've still got a bottle of that sitting right next to me.
Right, but what they're saying is it's the Bardstown Bourbon
has gone into the plantation rum, right?
Oh, okay.
So it was that collaboration. Now this scored a 93, bottled at 52%, $160 on your shelf.
Whew, that's what was the ABV again?
52.
Is there an age on it? Not that age necessarily matters. It's just it's.
So it doesn't lead with it in the title, but in reading a little paragraph here, this is from Jeffrey Lindenmuth writing in Whisky Advocate. Bardstown Bourbon Company has proven itself among the most innovative masters of blending and finishing with little regard for tradition. This is not as adventurous as some of their experiments, but it is no less successful. This 10-year-old Tennessee bourbon spent 22 months in plantation rum barrels. The result offers savory herbs balanced with caramel on the nose, flavors of dark chocolate, roasted coffee, and red fruit before a finish with generous baking spices and leather.
Wow. That sounds real nice.
Yeah, that sounds real. That sounds like a winner, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, coming and going. Okay.
Yeah. The ones, I'm a cheap bastard. That 160 is not a thing I'm going to be reaching for, but if that's your style, go crazy bananas.
I would take a pour of it at a bar.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. There is no chance of me giving you any clues for number 14. None at all. This is Blackened Rye, the Lightning Double Cask Madeira and Rum Finished. 93 points in the buying guide, bottled at 45%, $70 on your shelf.
Have you had any blackened?
None at all. None at all. Have you?
I had some.
Oh my lord. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the Metallica project.
Yeah.
That did not resonate with me right away.
So here's the thing. So I have had a taste of it early on. I get things in my head and I dig in my heels. And I've been upset with Metallica since the release of the Black Album.
Long-term listeners are very familiar with this.
And the pour of it that I had, it was great liquid, right? It was just, again, back to, things being solid drinkers. It was a solid drinker. I just have a tough time with Metallica these days. And by these days, I mean the past 30 plus years. So, so I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Let's leave it at that. I gave you the price, right? $70 on that one.
Mm-hmm. What was it another 93 point score?
It was.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. 93 points, 45% alcohol, $70.
45. Okay.
Given the rules of the game that we opened this endeavor with, we have our one and only Japanese whiskey in the 13th position. If you were to imagine a Japanese whiskey that is available, I was going to say affordable, and I just opened the price. So I will not say that. If you were to think of a Japanese whiskey that you see on a lot of shelves, anything come to mind? It's not a name I would naturally come to, but as soon as I see it, I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, okay.
Just really quickly, I'm assuming it's not single malt.
So I'm assuming it is, but that doesn't make me right.
Okay, so it's one that you're not very familiar with.
You're right. I don't buy Japanese whiskey. Yeah.
Can you give me just a few more hints?
Well, I'm on the description page. In the interest of fairness, I will tell you, David Fleming has written this. The conventional understanding of blank's two distilleries is that blank whiskies are smoky, while blank expressions are light and fruity.
Okay, so
and it's the second blank that we're looking for. So one is the ownership, then the second blank was one distillery, and then the third blank was the other distillery. And it's that distillery that we're talking about in position number 13.
Is it? See, I know you know Hakushu.
Absolutely.
So,
and I'm more familiar with the first name distillery here than I am with this second one.
Right. So you're thinking. So this has to be Miyagikyo.
Yep. Well done, Joshua Hatton.
Okay, so
I like
it's
how you
Mika
used my intellectual gaps to get to the right answer. So
Right?
yeah, the sentence is, the conventional understanding of Nika's two distilleries is that Yoichi whiskies are smoky, while Miyagiko expressions are light and fruity.
There you go.
And it says, here, Nika disrupts that thinking in a marriage of peat smoke with all that Miyagiko has to offer.
Oh, interesting.
This is Miyagiko peated.
Miyagikyo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Peated.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. That's, it. Since the Japanese boom, I haven't really paid attention to Yamazaki, Hakshu, Yuichi.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's all silly money for just good whiskey. Like, it's good whiskey, but it's never equal to that price, ever.
So if you were to guess the price point for this 94 rated 48% non-age stated peated Japanese single malt, what would you say?
$220.
That's actually you've impressed me this day, Joshua. It's not right, but you are in the ballpark. You missed it by $55.
Should I have gone north or south?
North.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There you go. 270?
275.
275. There you go. There you go. Okay.
So there you go. The only Japanese whiskey on this list, and it's coming in at 275. Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. But you've really spoken to, and really why we're kind of spending time going through the list is you've really spoken to a category that we've kind of given up on, right? Don't really pay attention to it. Don't keep an eye on availability. Don't keep an eye on pricing. Hey, if you like Japanese whiskey, it's great liquid. I'm not spending that money on it.
And the fact of the matter is, there's other doorways into Japanese whiskey through Koji whiskey or through some of the pure malts.
Right.
I would argue that Nika from the barrel remains, at least in today's money, a solid price. Now, granted, there's rumors of Ben Nevis being blended into there and so on, but it doesn't. It's still a great drinker being produced, blended, all that in Japan. So, there are areas for people to find an entry into that, but you start hitting brick walls and doors with very expensive padlocks real quick.
Well, and I think to your point about the Koji whiskey, and you talk about the power of this list, previously Oishi and Fukano have been on this list.
They have, yep.
And you can pick them up, depending on the release, for under $100.
Oh, yeah.
And great whiskey going into those bottles. So I think there are other places to spend your money if you want the Japanese experience. I'm going to belabor whiskey number 12, and then we're going to skip on a couple of quick ones. But I want to belabor number 12 because we are returning to Scotch. And so we've gone from the 20th position to the 12th position.
Okay.
And we have a Scotch. And I think I could give you 100 guesses at this distillery and you would not get it. And I'm hoping telling you that makes you invert your list so you're quicker to guess what it could be.
Well, let me ask you this. Would I potentially not get it because it's a distillery I tend to avoid?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right. So so it sounds like there's a chance, and I have to say this as a caveat because Michael Jackson has always said, you always want to say good things. This distillery's profile has just never sat with my palate. Is it a Jura?
No.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
It really would be amazing. It'd
be amazing if it was a Jura. No, it's not. You're in the right vicinity. It doesn't fall into the Jura category of avoidance. It's much more, what it puts out, I just don't think rings our bells.
Because
It's
of price point?
softer.
Oh,
It's
softer.
lower ABVs. The ABV on this offering is 43%, non-age statement.
Is it the Dalmore?
It's not, but one of the guesses I was going to give you is, or one of the hints I was going to give you is, cigar malt is in the title.
Ah, right. And that would have been perfect. Oh, who else had a cigar malt? Oh, jeepers.
And if I tell you it begins with a T, I can force you into making a wrong guess.
Is there a Tullabarden cigar malt?
It's not. You're absolutely on the right path, though. It's the other T.
There's a few more T's. Is there a Tomatin cigar malt? No, because I like Tomatin.
Yep.
And I like Tullabarden. I just don't drink a lot of it.
And again, I'm not saying you don't like the whiskey from this distillery. I'm just saying it doesn't really ring a bell, right? It's not a thing you go in search of.
What are my other T's? There's Tormore, but I like Tormore. There's Talisker, but I like Talisker. There's Toravaig, but I like Toravaig. Or I reach it. There's Temnavulin. Is it Temnavulin?
Nope.
It's not Temnavulin.
I'll be honest, when we started this, I didn't think there were this many T's. And I think there's actually literally two you haven't mentioned. And I thought I could force your hand.
Well, there's Tianenich, but there's no bottling.
I hadn't included them in my head either.
Jason. Tamdu? But I like Tamdu.
That was one of my
Okay, good.
Don't Tamdu have a cigar malt?
I don't know if they have a cigar malt, but I would argue like everything sherry, right?
Heavy sherry, right?
Come on.
I know the heavy sherry's there. Okay, there's one more T left, Joshua. One more T.
Oh, Jason. I'm at I gotta look at my shelves, see if I have a.
You don't.
I don't.
But it sounds like Tom is in something, though.
Tom is in something. I don't know. I already said Tomatin and you said no.
It sounds like Tom is in something.
Well, Thomasin sounds like Tomatin, and like that's not it. So why am I having a Tom is in something?
What if he was in a towel?
Tomental. Oh, that's so funny. And I have a Tomental from Exclusive Malts. Brilliant whiskey. Brilliant whiskey. Yep. Wow.
But
So a Tomental.
But their standard line, right? Their standard line doesn't tend to ring our bell. Tends to be lower ABV. It's a pretty soft and gentle Scotch single malt.
Yeah.
But so here we go. So number 12, Tomental Cigar Malt Oloroso Sherry Cask Finish, 94 points, 43% alcohol, $130. And because sherry is expensive and buying sherry wood costs a lot of money. So
It does. Wow. Tomental.
Bourbon wood's getting there. All right, let's sprint through some of these. That Tomental, that was excellent. Okay, number 11, Sweetens Cove Tennessee Toasted Sugar Maplewood Finished. 93 points, 55.35%, $60, combination of Kentucky and Tennessee whiskey. Number 10, Nelson Brothers Reserve, 93 points, 53.9%, $60, combination of Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee whiskies.
What is Nelson Brothers?
Nelson Brothers,
as in the musicians from the 90s?
As
Ricky
in,
Nelson's kids? What was that big song Nelson had? Do you remember?
Remember I bought you the Nelson Brothers?
The Greenbrier stuff. Yeah.
Right.
That Greenbrier is
And
nice
so
liquid.
The branding has changed, the name has changed. Isn't it owned by Constellation?
Could be, but I really liked that Greenbrier stuff. Again, back to the idea of a solid drinker. Which
amazingly was 45.5%, and cost $27.
Yes, please and thank you.
Bought it in the last year from Jack Rose Dining Saloon, from their little in-house store.
Okay.
All right. Well, since I'm looking over this list, I'm going to pour some Nelson Brothers. Since I have it in my hand, I pulled it out to show you. Gosh, those two sentences. Those two sentences went very wrong very quickly.
Hey, look at this. Easy. Go easy.
What's amazing is in this recording, my recording equipment has stopped dead on 35 minutes. Like, just boom, just so beautiful. Like, every minute that we're engaging in right now remains 35 minutes.
Yeah,
this is beautiful.
It is pretty amazing.
Well, here's a cheers. Did you find it?
I didn't. Hold on.
A few moments later.
With your Nelson Brothers in your hand.
Yes, sir.
I am cheersing to a successful season 3. And looking forward to a few new developments in season 4.
Oh, I'm looking forward to the season 4 developments. Cheers to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I noticed about this Greenbrier bottling?
Yeah.
Because you'd mentioned it before, 45.5% alcohol.
Yeah.
Nowhere on the label does it mention proof. It's just the alcohol. I love that, Jason.
And now I'm trying to look at the picture of the new livery to see if they've got proof on it.
It doesn't say alcohol, it only says proof.
Moving into number 9, Joshua, we do make a return to Scotland. Listeners who are listening closely will be picking up a trend on where I really stop to discuss the bottlings.
There's a Scottish bottling. Slow time down.
But here's the amazing thing I'm going to say to you. This is the number 9 spot, and it's the last Scotch single malt on the list.
Is it the last malt whiskey on the list, though?
No.
Good.
No,
okay,
it is not.
Cool. I like hearing that.
No, it is not. So, if you could pick, and it has to be a 2023 release. If you
2022 release.
You are exactly correct. I have already checked out of this year.
If I can move forward in time.
Yeah, if you were looking over a 2022, and I'll give you a clue here, a peated Scotch single malt release, widely available. What do you think? Because it's the only one on this list. What do you think it might be? And if you even just want to take a stab at a distillery, I'd be okay with that as well.
Well, I mean, my gut tells me that it would be the Lagavulin Offerman bottling, right? It's got to be, right?
That's exactly what I would think, and it is not.
No, that can't be right.
Right?
Really?
Right? The Offerman is not on this list.
That's interesting. Everyone you speak to, everyone is like, oh,
right?
That's good Lagavulin.
Yep. This came in at 94 points.
Is it Isla? Is it an Isla distillery? Okay. Is it the Ardbeg 8-year-old? No, because that was 2021 release, wasn't it?
It was also for discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no standard Ardbeg 8.
Oh, okay. Yep. Thank you. Okay.
But I tell you, if they'd put Wee Beastie on here, didn't get released in 2022, but that would be another good addition.
Yeah, right. Yeah, without a doubt. So, newly released in 2022, an Isla distillery that is peated. Oof. Wow, isn't that interesting? Like, I really pay attention to Kilchoman. Even if I didn't have an Impacts hat on, I would be paying attention to Kilchoman. I really pay attention to Lagavulin. And it's obvious this is, that's where I'm less keen on the other ones. Not because I don't love them, just I'm paying less attention.
Well, let me do this for you, Josh.
Okay.
Let me do this. I'm going to lean on David Savona, writing for Whisky Advocate here.
Okay.
And David writes, this expression, now in its 8th edition, I wish listeners could see your eyes right now. It's like a beautiful mind in here.
Yeah, it's that confused math look. Like,
Showcases Blank's commitment, this might give the game away, to Islay Terroir. You just talked about Kilchoman coming into this, and we know their commitment to Islay Terroir, and we think of someone else having commitment to Islay Terroir.
Right. So we're living in Bruichladdich land. Okay, go ahead.
Did I already give you the age on this?
You didn't give me an age, just that this is the 8th iteration.
You're right, the 8th edition.
Yep.
So I'm going to go on and say it's an 8-year-old in a world of double-digit age-stated Scotch. But you'll never accuse this delightful whiskey of being too young. Sweet biscuity aromas along with ripe peaches and pears lead to a creamy palate of lemon cake, candied orange, nougat, and vanilla. All balanced by the wood influence and hints of salinity. Water brings out sweet nectar and honey. The finish is graceful, long, and lively, making this a truly memorable dram. Those notes speak to the distillery that you just threw out after the first sentence. Those notes speak to Bruichladdich.
They do, right? But if it's Bruichladdich, there wasn't a mention of smoke or peat. So it's Bruichladdich. So it's unpeated. I'm assuming unpeated, or if there's peat, the peat really wasn't mentioned. I love all those tasting notes. All right. It's an 8-year-old whiskey that's in its 8th release. And it's a Bruichladdich. When they talk about terroir, it's usually the Islay barley, right? They're highlighting the Islay barley.
Good job. You parsed that out expertly. So this is the Bruichladdich 8-year-old Islay barley 2013 distillate.
Right, and so that's the part that confused me a little bit, because usually what's highlighted is that vintage that you talked about.
Right.
Okay.
So 94 points, 50% alcohol. Should be able to find it for somewhere around $75. You're right in what you said, and I do want to make a larger comment about this list, which is it's the only Islay on the list, and either it's not peated, or it's very lightly peated, or it's peated with Highland peat, right? It's a different kind of beast. It leaves the peated, and again, I think the only real peated on the list then comes from Japan. There's only 3 Scotchies on here. It's an interesting whiskey world represented in this top 20 list.
And you know what? Just really quickly, if we did take a page from Cher's book and turned back time, back to our 2008, 2009. Not discovery of this list, but, just starting to pay attention to it.
Oh, yeah.
I would argue that we would probably find more Scotch whiskies on that list. And I don't think that we're seeing fewer Scotch whiskies on here because the quality has gone down. Rather, how many countries have you just mentioned, right? That really weren't whiskey-producing countries, or at least well-known whiskey-producing countries until more recent times. So it's the playing field is just widened.
Right, which I think takes us perfectly into position number 8. Limavady. Is it Limavady? Single barrel from Ireland.
Oh, it's one of those new distilleries, huh?
Right, 46%er at $50. It got a 94. You want to talk about the power of this list? Limavady they just landed. And with a single barrel at that.
Yeah.
Single barrel 0039. If anyone at home has a bottle on their shelf.
Kind of interesting, though, right? Because they talk about availability, and you're not very available.
Right. You think Limavady single barrel 0039 sold out the day this list went live?
Many times over, I'm sure.
Here's one for you. Number 7, Blue Note Duke Joint Uncut. 92 points, 58.65, 45% Kentucky Liquid. $45 Kentucky Liquid.
So a few things here. Blue Note is a bottling or a brand that I've seen popping up here, there, and everywhere. Many a crotch shot on Facebook with the Blue Notes. Haven't had it. Have only heard good things. But let me ask you something. Did you just say it's 92 points?
Yeah.
How are we going down in points but up in ranking?
Because remember, that was part of the business we opened with. That's the original buying guide, but when they tasted it blind and they organized it for the top 20,
yeah.
this came into that number 7 position in a blind review.
So score aside, within the context of these whiskeys, it got
Remember the phrase, the average rating from the blind tasting panel supersedes the original buying guide rating.
Thank you. Good reminder. Okay, cool.
So there you go. So number 7 from Blue Note managed to jump up. Then we're into another Irish.
Wow.
Which
how is this possible?
Irish listeners, we're Celtic cousins. You know I love you. Number 6 position, Middleton gets a mention this time. Mm-hmm. Middleton, very rare, from 2022, 94 points, 40% alcohol, $200 a bottle.
Yeah.
A composition of carefully selected stocks of single pot still and single grain whiskies aged between 12 and 33 years. That comes from Johnny McCormick in Whisky Advocate.
Right. So I'm sure the flavor range is really wide there. Like some of these Irish whiskeys, when they get into their late 20s, early 30s, they turn into these like tropical fruit basket whiskeys. I'm just 40%. It puts me on edge a little bit. It would have been nice, 43, 46, but they know what they're doing. People still love them. Who am I to say, right?
Number 5 gives us our only American single malt whiskey in the top 20.
Is it from a producer that we've worked with?
Kind of.
So it's Westward. Because we're working with them and have selected a couple casks for 2023 release. Am I correct?
Westward cask strength, 94 points, 62.5% alcohol, $100 a bottle. And out of Oregon, for those who are not working with Westward currently. They're out of Oregon, Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, I have developed a bit of a Westward fetish. I am absolutely head over heels in love with their spirit and their whiskeys. I think Westland has been its own animal, and it's been great to grow up with them and around them. But I think brands like Westward and Copperworks are doing something a bit different. They're both kind of in a slightly different wheelhouse. And I'm so impressed with both those distilleries. Westward has captured my attention across a few bottlings.
And I think what you said earlier really plays out here. If we could turn back time a la Cher, I think we're living in the moment right this second, which is let's watch American single malt appear on this top 20 list. And as you, again, rightly said, settle down. It's the last episode of the season.
Holy cow.
As you rightly said, right? There's 3 Scotch single malts on here. It doesn't mean Scotch single malt has gone off a cliff. There are a number of American, mixed region bourbons and whiskeys on here, right? People are playing around with this much larger whiskey category. There's only 20 spots. Yeah. And so, A, it's interesting where this list stands now. B, it's going to be interesting where this list goes as well.
Yep. Yeah.
So we're closing in on the top 4. The other point I want to make as we're closing in on the top 4 here as well is you and I in the next episode of One Nation Under Whiskey will reveal our own single cask nation preferred pick of the year, a non-single cask nation whiskey pick of the year. I'm sitting with a 20 bottle list right now that I don't own, drink, consume any of these 20. And it's I am thinking long and hard about what are my offerings when we come to the reveal in One Nation Under Whiskey.
I've established mine. I discovered my non-SCN favorite whiskey a few months back, and I'm excited to share it. But if I hadn't discovered that one, I'd be in the same position as you. Like this year, interestingly enough, has been a year of me paying far less attention to new releases coming out.
So this is me putting a pin in a conversation you and I are going to continue in One Nation Under
100%,
Whiskey.
100%. Yep.
Our end of year review episode. So let's close this out. Number 4 is, I'm just going to say it, it's also in the Stephanie McLeod stable, but it's not a single malt.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I wonder if it's one of her Dewar's blends.
That's exactly it. Exactly.
Yeah.
The number 4 position in this list. Dewar's 12-year-old, 40% alcohol, $30 a bottle, pick it up on every shelf in the world. In the buying guide, this scored 94 points. Yeah. And then in the blind review, made it into the number 4 position.
I have really liked the various Dewar's blends that Stephanie's put together. This one has not hit my radar, though. It's been the more, odd cask finish, older age statement, like there was that 27-year-old and what have you. All right, that one's officially on my list because I love Stephanie and the price is right. So there you go.
$30.
Yeah,
Good
right?
grief.
Easy breezy. Yep.
Yeah, you can take a chance on that. The comment that I made a moment ago about American projects pooling bourbons, pooling whiskies from multiple regions. Here we've got ourselves an Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee project blending, vatting, mixture from a very well-known independent bottler, American independent bottler.
So when you say American independent bottler, you would consider a company like High West or Smooth Ambler. Now, granted, they're both producing their own liquid, but that's how they started their brand, right? Are you saying?
So this is a non-producing independent bottler in America,
but it's a brand.
It's a brand, yeah. You know them. You know them very, very, very well.
Is it Barrel?
Yeah,
yeah, Barrel Bourbon. 100%. There you go.
They're forever popping up on lists like this. Forever. Seeing them in the number 3 position here, not a surprise at all. And this release is Barrel Vantage. It scored 95 points in the buying guide, 57.22%, $90 combination of Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee liquid.
There you go. Yeah, listen, Barrel have been a friend of the Jubilee early on.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly.
And they're good people. Joe Beatrice, Will Schragus is a guy somewhat local to me, just lovely people making great whiskey. That's number 3 or 4?
3, yeah, 3. That was great, yeah.
Good on
Dewar's
them.
12 with Stephanie McLeod was 4. Right. Yep. Barrel with Joe and Will was number 3. Number 2 is someone we don't have any contact with, but let me gird my loins here.
All right.
We're back in Ireland, Joshua.
What is going on with Ireland all of a sudden?
Let me just quickly scroll through this. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 4th Irish whiskey on this 20-item list.
And Jason, only 3 Scotch whiskeys. Do you get your competitive boots on?
Technically, there's 4 Scotch whiskies. 3 of them are single malts.
Oh, okay.
We're really pulling out the
Dewar's.
technicalities here, right?
No.
We're really pulling out the technicalities. I'll give you a whopping great hint here. This is an Irish brand that I purchase and enjoy and tell people about and blah, 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 blah. But it's a kind of a special release from this brand.
So I know you like your Redbreast.
Exactly correct, right? Whopping great clue on that one. Can you think of a Redbreast special that you've seen this year? I know you're not hovering over the Irish whiskey shelves.
No, but I do love Redbreast. Like their 15-year, I think, is remarkable. I think it's far better than the 12, and I know I'm in the minority there, but anyway.
Well, the Redbreast Cask Strength is the real winner.
Yeah, I don't love it as much as I love the regular 12 or the 15, Jason.
So this, I'm not going to give you the name. This offering scored 96 points, bottled at 50.5%, and will cost you $95 US if you want to add it to the collection.
Great ABV. No, you'll have to put me out of my misery on this. The last special thing I can remember is their collaboration with Lustau, but that was a while back.
Right? Yeah, agreed. Agreed. This is the Redbreast Kentucky Oak Edition, coming in at number 2 on the list.
Kentucky Oak Edition. What does that mean?
I don't know. Let me let me click through and see if they wax lyrical. Oh gosh, there's a video. Just leave it at that. There's only a video. There's no writing, and there you go. It's a prestige thing.
All right, yeah.
So there you go. So that's Redbreast. Okay, closing out. Mm-hmm. I could give you a million guesses.
And I wouldn't in a million years guess it.
You would get number 1 position. I could limit your guessing capabilities to tell you it's a Tennessee product.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was Irish.
No, remember, number 2 was our last venture into Ireland, bringing them to 4 total. We're in Tennessee. Tennessee has appeared a fair few times on this list. Tennessee has done okay for itself, even in some of these collaborations, you know. The Sweetens Cove, Tennessee Toasted Sugar Maplewood finished is Kentucky and Tennessee. The Nelson Brothers, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. The Barrel was Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee.
I really love Tennessee whiskey. I think Dickel is producing some phenomenal stuff.
So let me tell you, it's not from Dickel.
Okay. Oh, wait a second. Is it Uncle Nearest?
It is not, but wouldn't that have been something?
That would have been cool, right? Oh my gosh. Right, with all the awards Victoria Butler has been receiving, wouldn't that have been like the cherry on the top? Okay.
I will tell you though, they do have a very significant connection to Uncle Nearest.
Yeah, there you go. So it's a Jack Daniels.
It is a Jack Daniels product. Can you guess? Let me tell you. It scored 97 points in the buying guide.
Okay.
It's bottled at 50%.
Okay.
Wink, wink. And it's $30 a bottle. And my guess is it's on every shelf in the land. Maybe not. Maybe not.
Wow.
What release? I'll give you a gigantic hint. The clue is in the ABV.
Well, it's their bottled and bond.
Exactly. It's Jack Daniels Bonded is their language for it. For you and me, it's Jack Daniels BIB, right?
There you go.
$30 for a Jack Daniels hitting number 1 whiskey of the year.
You know, it's interesting. For years and years and years, I poo-pooed Jack Daniels because it really is. It can be a sweeter whiskey, and I don't have much of a sweet tooth. However, I remember early on in the Single Cask Nation days, I'll frame it with the two-year-old Catoctin Creek, the first Catoctin Creek that we released. I was down at Whiskey Obsession in Tampa, and I was on a panel with, I want to say his name was Jeff Arnett. He was the master distiller at Jack Daniels at the time. And we each presented a whiskey, or maybe it was 2 whiskeys. And he presented the Frank Sinatra Jack Daniel's release. And man, if that wasn't just a belter of a whiskey, just really remarkable stuff. And then I started paying attention to their single casks. Always high ABV, just remarkable liquid, just solid every time. So the fact that they're doing a BIB, $30 a pop, like, good on them. Like, I like to see them get outside what their standard bottling does to highlight what they're really capable of.
Yeah, no, agreed. And actually, just as I'm busy saying, I'm sure you'll find this on every shelf in the land, I am just curious, given our situation in Virginia here. Jack Daniel's Bonded Classic, it's $36 before tax here in Virginia. And yeah, I'm looking at multiple stores here. Some stores across Virginia have 10 bottles, some have 12, some are as low as 4 in their inventory. This is everywhere, and you're going to find it cheap as chips. But okay, so you hadn't seen the list before. We've gone through the list. We've stopped in a few pockets. I've pointed out the prevalence of Irish, the prevalence of Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, perhaps the dearth of Scotch.
Yeah.
Maybe the one Japanese representation, but now here's the emergence of Indri within the Indian contingent. What's your general sense, feeling, response to this 20-bottle list?
I do like how broad it is. It makes me wish I had paid much more attention this year to what was released, because all I can say is, well, these guys are the experts. They're paying attention to it. They've come up with a good list. But I wonder if I were paying attention, if I may disagree with some things a bit more. Or maybe agreed, right? Yeah, or agreed, right?
Yeah. I would. Can I throw in something?
Let me just add one last thing. If I'm not,
it's along the lines of what you just said.
Okay, then.
I let my Whisky Advocate subscription lapse.
All right.
Because aside from the articles that were coming in, the whiskey information wasn't new to me.
No,
and by the time a published magazine came in, it felt a little recycled. In leaving social media, in not traveling as much, as not being in stores or in bars, we're not being paid to say this, I'm saying this 100% for free. I could potentially benefit from a Whisky Advocate subscription for that buying guide. Yeah. Oh, this came out this month or last month. Oh, this came out. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, maybe I will go search that out. I'm just being very honest here that and it speaks to what you're saying as well about not quite paying as much attention to what came out in the whiskey world this year. And there's that little bit of, we're so focused on our own company. You've got the additional Impex hat on. It's hard to be up on all of the releases and all of the information.
It reminds me of a story you've told, I'm sure, at least once on this podcast, and surely amongst groups of other people, where, early days, you bumped into Simon Brooking in a bar and you wanted to discuss, and for those that don't know, right, Simon Brooking is the Lefroy guy here in the U.S., the Beam guy, really, but he's the face of Lefroy. And you started having a discussion with him about all of these whiskeys. But he's the Lefroy guy. It doesn't make him a lesser whiskey nerd, but where is his focus, right? And so we're running into the same things as you had those years ago. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was going to frame the exact same story on the next episode of One Nation Under Whiskey, because that's exactly how I'm feeling right now. It's so weird to have, single cask samples on my desk that are so connected to whiskies that aren't released, not being released now, might not end up being released. Like, that's where my focus is, on the stuff that's actually hitting store shelves. Well, what's been another theme of 2022 that we'll cover in One Nation Under Whiskey is we're both pulling back on our purchasing. We're not bringing in every new bottle to give it a taste, to have an opinion on it. And so I thought this was a fascinating list, and I think it encapsulated 2022 in the whiskey world very nicely.
Okay, so
and our place within it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and I realize we're getting really close to our 35-minute mark here.
Real close. I appreciate you watching the clock.
Given that we have pulled back on our purchases, and given that you said, maybe I would start subscribing to this again for reasons like this, a list that I may want to use to purchase from, given that you've pulled back, but given this list from these top 20, are there ones that you feel you might pull your wallet out for?
Well, you already know your Hanukkah gift.
There you go.
Right? I bought that immediately.
Yeah.
I would definitely look at that Jack Daniels bottled in bond. Again, like you were saying, it's $30, right? You can add a $30 bottle, even in Virginia, 36 before tax. You can add that bottle pretty quickly. Obviously, Westward is somebody we're paying close attention to in working with them. And the Indri, of course, that was an intriguing interview.
Yeah.
And to see them land upon launch at number 17, really, even if I didn't have, your connection, the Impex connection, like the fact that landed at 17 in the first year, that's worth paying attention to. So those are places, and that's what, $60 for the Indri as well.
Yeah.
So 60 there, 65 on the Craigellachie, 30 on the Jack Daniels, 100 on the Westward Cask Strength. It's the Cask Strength that has my attention.
Yes,
there.
yeah, sure.
A standard release on that, I'd be looking at the price closer, but Cask Strength, 100. So there you go. That's kind of the honest answer to your question, where I would spend my money. I know you mentioned the $30 on the Dewar's 12.
The Dewar's, yeah.
Obviously, you're out there repping and encouraging people to spend their money there. And you believe in it. I know that much as well. Any others on that list that you think you might return to?
Yeah, the Jack Daniels for sure. I have my fair share of Jack Daniels single casks. I really learned to see the beauty in their spirit, and the price is right, and the ABV is solid, so that's good. The Westward for sure. The Dewar's we mentioned. There was that 2-year-old, which had those interesting tasting notes.
The James B. Beam Colonel.
Yeah.
James B. Beam 2-year-old at $80.
It's $80. I get that. Maybe I'd buy a dram of that. Kind of like, what was the other one where I said, you know what, I would do a dram of that. Maybe not a bottle, but I'd do a dram.
I remember you saying it about the Colonel. Did you say it about another one?
Yeah, maybe it was just that one. No, there was a $160 bottle one.
Oh, the Bardstown Bourbon Company.
Yeah.
Collaborative Series Plantation Rum Barrel Finish in position number 15. $160.
Yeah, and then the last thing that I would say is I'm intrigued by the Red Breast, and I'm curious to know what that Kentucky oak blah blah whatever it is means.
Kentucky Oak Edition. Yep.
If that's all just straight up fresh bourbon casks at 50.5% alcohol, I am 100% interested. If it's Kentucky New Charred Oak, I think I may be a little less interested. So I don't know. So I want to do a little investigation on that one.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to say this, Joshua. We have finally reached 35 minutes.
Oh, man. Oh, wow.
Let me say this. Dear listeners, please, if you've been meaning to do it over the course of 2022 and you haven't done it, please drop us an email On One Nation Under Whiskey Year in Review episode, we're going to go over listener whiskies of the year. And so just like we've spent a good 35 minutes, a tight 35 minutes today going over this top 20, please send in your own. You can send that to questions@onenationunderwhiskey.com. You can also send it to info@singlecasknation.com if you so desire. But send it in. We want to get a sense of what are our listeners drinking? What are you telling your friends about? That's what we want to share in One Nation Under Whiskey. So please, 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 we're in the festive season. Consider it a gift. Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, New Year, winter solstice, whichever. Consider it a gift to Joshua and Jason that you would send in your opinions on some whiskies. You don't even have to write anything. Just send us a top 3. Boom, boom, boom. We'll be good. Send us a top 1. Really want to hear from you. Really want to get your opinions shared on One Nation Under Whiskey.
Beauty. Beauty, beauty.
Until January, Joshua, for Extra, we will be out December 28 with the final One Nation Under Whiskey of 2022 Year in Review. I will say to you, Joshua, in all sincerity and with love in my heart, peace to you, your family, our listeners, their families, and everybody suffering in Ukraine. Peace.
Peace.